Meghan and Prince Andrew, exposed. That's a headline. The kind of line that makes you stop mid-scroll. Because honestly, these two names should never appear side by side. Meghan Markle, the Hollywood actress who married into royalty. Prince Andrew, the Queen's embattled son, forever surrounded by controversy. Completely different worlds, or so it seemed. Then Tom Bower steps in with receipts. Not theories, actual bits of history. Dates, trips, familiar faces showing up in places they shouldn't. And when you start putting those pieces together, one question starts whispering in the background, a question so explosive most people refuse to repeat it. Were Meghan and Andrew connected long before Harry ever entered the picture, as far back as 2012? It sounds absurd, unbelievable, but once that thought lands, it refuses to leave. And when you trace Meghan's life before she became a duchess, you start noticing her path brushing up against Andrew's circle again and again. This isn't wild storytelling. This is timelines, evidence, and people who watch things unfold up close. So let's rewind. The first odd moment doesn't happen on a yacht or at a secret party. It happens inside Buckingham Palace itself. Meghan stands beside Harry, right next to the Queen, the most famous grandmother on the planet. Meghan leans toward Harry and quietly asks, "Who's that standing next to your grandma?" The man she pointed at, Prince Andrew, the Queen's own son, Harry's uncle, a figure who had been in the headlines for decades. Yet Meghan insists she didn't know who he was. The Queen, she claimed, wasn't royalty to her. She was just Harry's grandma. Innocent, unfamiliar, completely detached. At least, that's the image she wanted to project. But here's where everything starts to twist. The deeper you rewind Meghan's past, the harder it is to believe she had no idea who Prince Andrew was. That innocent question in the palace starts to look less like confusion and more like an act. Because before Meghan Markle became the Duchess of Sussex, she was an actress trying to climb her way up. A British showbiz reporter recalls meeting her for drinks long before suits made her recognizable. His memory of her is crystal clear, soft-spoken, polite, but absolutely driven when it came to one thing: publicity. She wasn't embarrassed about it. She openly wanted attention in the UK. She wanted articles, interviews, a presence in British media. She was looking for an entry point, any door that would get her inside. And she had a plan. She talked about her divorce. She brought up her dating life. She even mentioned football star Ashley Cole. But the moment the journalist brought up the rumors surrounding Ashley's messy personal life, Meghan's expression changed instantly, like she'd been caught using a move she didn't expect anyone to question. Even back then, she was testing possibilities, pushing a little here, trying a little there, always searching for access to something bigger. And it didn't take long before she stepped into circles far more powerful than the world of British sports. That's where Ewan Elash comes in, a name most people don't recognize, but one that insiders speak about quietly. A billionaire, a globetrotter, a man closely connected to Prince Andrew. The same man said to have introduced Andrew to those infamous Thailand trips long before Epstein scandals erupted. And right here is where Meghan's path unexpectedly intersects with Andrew's world. Her sorority years at Northwestern weren't just about classes, parties, and campus life. Some former sisters later recalled how Meghan would vanish for long stretches, then return with stories that sounded almost unreal. Tales of Mediterranean yacht trips, luxurious weekends abroad, and wealthy circles most students never touched. And in those stories, one name kept floating around quietly. Ewan, not confirmed, not documented, just a name whispered in the background. But the coincidences don't stop there. Meghan once mentioned she traveled to Thailand in 2001. That trip, purely by timing, sits oddly close to the period when Prince Andrew was known to visit the region as well. And over the years, scattered rumors and old photos have supposedly placed Meghan on yachts near people who were loosely connected to Andrew's world, including Kana Sherlock and others tied to those high-flying social circles. None of it forms a clean picture, but it's scattered. It's unclear, easy to dismiss when viewed piece by piece. But when you zoom out, you start seeing Meghan brushing the edges of the same world Andrew moved in, long before she ever stood beside Harry. On paper, Meghan's story seems simple. She studied theater. She interned the U.S. Embassy in Argentina for 5 weeks. She graduated from Northwestern. Professional, straightforward, polished. But there's one part she never highlights. Right after her time in Argentina, she enrolled in a 3-month program in Spain. University records back up the dates. Everything aligns neatly. Yet Meghan has never publicly mentioned it. No photos, no memories shared, no stories from the trip. Why the silence? According to some former sorority friends, those months abroad weren't exactly about classes or studying. They describe a different version, one filled with Mediterranean yachts, private villas, and a lifestyle far beyond what a struggling young actress could normally afford. Again, nothing proven, nothing official, just pieces, just whispers. But together, they paint a far more complicated backdrop to Meghan's life than the polished resume suggests. She would disappear for long stretches, then come back with stories about mixing with billionaires, royals, and globetrotters. Back then, her friends brushed it off. It all sounded too over the top, too impossible to take seriously. But years later, when names like you and Elish, Prince Andrew's billionaire associate, started popping up in connection to the same places and timelines, those wild stories didn't feel so wild anymore. And suddenly the question hits, what was Meghan actually doing during those missing months? Jump to 2012. Meghan's working on Suits. She isn't a star. She isn't top billing. She's a side character, a few lines here and there. Yet out of nowhere, she's flown business class to Hong Kong like she's the centerpiece of the entire show. She's surrounded by major media figures. She's treated like a rising celebrity long before the fame truly arrived. And then comes the strangest piece of the puzzle. She sits down for an interview with Diva Universal, an interview that has completely vanished. Scrubbed. Gone. In that conversation, Meghan casually mentioned royalty being around. Not royalty in general. She specifically referred to Prince Andrew. And here's the odd part. Andrew was confirmed to be in Hong Kong at that exact moment. There's no official record of them being seen together. No photo. No headline. Nothing concrete. But people who attended the same functions whispered that they moved through the same lounges, the same dinners, the same private gatherings. It's a pattern that keeps repeating, Meghan appearing in elite circles, crossing paths with powerful names, but never leaving more than faint traces behind. Just whispers, just enough to raise eyebrows. By 2015, Meghan Markle had built a strange sort of presence, not fully famous, not yet a royal figure, but somehow always positioned close to people with influence, status, and connections far bigger than her resume would suggest. She wasn't an A-list actress. She wasn't headlining premieres or dominating red carpets. Yet somehow, Meghan kept appearing in places most rising actors could only dream of. Take Istanbul, the grand opening of Soho House, a gathering packed with elites, royals, and Hollywood heavyweights. Meghan posed for a photo with Eddie Redmayne, and the Daily Mail eventually published a shot. But here's the strange part. They identified everyone in the picture, except Meghan. She was right there, yet completely ignored by the press. Almost like she was present, but not meant to be noticed. That same weekend, both Prince Charles and Prince Harry were reportedly in Turkey as well. The timing is hard to overlook. But the bigger clue lies with the man behind Soho House, billionaire Ron Burkle. The same Ron Burkle rumored to have flown Meghan privately to Jamaica for a wedding. Burkle, who moved in circles that often overlap with Andrew's world. Burkle opened doors very few could open, and Meghan seemed to step right through. But it didn't stop at glamorous events. Meghan's path edged into one of the darkest, most controversial corners of Andrew's orbit, the yachts. There's a photo of Meghan in a white Panama hat, relaxed on the deck of a Mediterranean yacht, smiling beside people whose names now trigger alarms. Karina Sholok was reportedly there, Epstein's girlfriend at the time. Epstein himself was said to be close by. And according to some accounts, Prince Andrew may have joined during part of that route as well. It wasn't a paparazzi moment. The IT wasn't splashed across tabloids. That IT was quiet, private, the kind of scene that only resurfaces years later when people start stitching together scattered memories. And once again, Meghan appears in the frame, not front and center, not making headlines, just quietly present. Seen by a few, forgotten by most, but always there, right on the edge of powerful circles that would define the storm still to come. When Meghan wasn't appearing on yachts or slipping into exclusive parties, she was navigating another power lane altogether, fashion. She showed up at Fashion Week events, appeared at a Royal Ballet presentation in New York, and wore pieces from labels tied to Harvey Weinstein's former partner. On the surface, it looked like ordinary networking. But the small details tell a different story. In the press, she wasn't introduced as a TV personality or a rising celebrity. She was labeled simply as a model actress. And that matters, because it suggests Meghan wasn't climbing through the usual Hollywood route. She was being placed, guided, ushered into rooms where a single introduction could change everything. And those rooms, they kept circling back to familiar territory, the same elite networks connected to Andrew's world. Billionaires, insiders, quiet power players with access far beyond anything Meghan had at the time. Then came Jamaica, a wedding Harry attended. But while Harry flew economy, Meghan arrived in style, reportedly flown privately by Ron Burkle himself. Burkle, once again, at the center of the connection. On the guest list were Eugenie, Fergie, and yes, Prince Andrew. But if you search for pictures, nothing.no Andrew.no Fergie.no Eugenie. They were there, according to attendees, but kept out of the public eye. And Meghan, once again inside that circle, yet not officially acknowledged. Present, but uncredited. Seen, but not spotlighted. It's the same pattern repeating itself again and again. Meghan doesn't just wander into these spaces. Someone brings her in. Someone shields her, and when needed, someone wipes the trail clean. By this point, the pattern is impossible to ignore. Meghan's rise wasn't accidental. It was a slow, calculated drift into the elite circles that hovered around Prince Andrew. From Soho House gatherings to yacht trips linked to Epstein's world, from interviews that vanished to gala events where she appeared but was never officially named, Meghan was consistently present, yet somehow never fully visible. And when she eventually married Harry, the people inside those circles weren't shocked. They weren't even curious. The only real surprise was that it hadn't happened sooner. So when Tom Bauer releases his so-called receipts and whispers start swirling about Meghan and Andrew being connected as far back as 2012, it's not about one picture or one rumor. It's a pattern, a long, winding pattern of proximity, of showing up in the same places, around the same people, in the same rarefied spaces. And that moment in Buckingham Palace, when Meghan acted as if she didn't recognize Andrew, maybe it wasn't innocence, maybe it wasn't confusion. Maybe it was the smartest move she ever made.